Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Did the Suns get enough back after trading away Kevin Durant to the Houston Rockets? Also, can the Pacers regroup after coming so close to winning it all and losing their star in heartbreaking fashion? And the East is wide open for a team like the Orlando Magic to swoop in.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
The Kevin Durant era in Phoenix is officially over. Here to talk about that with me is Brendan Clean, one of the hosts over at Locked On Suns. And Brendan, I know that the Kevin Durant era in Phoenix was a disappointment, all things considered. Matt Ishbia comes in, makes a splash, and the Suns trade him to Houston just a couple of years later with really not a lot to show for it. Let's start with the haul first. KD traded to Houston. You get Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, number 10, as well as a handful of second-round picks. They recoup some of their draft capital that they moved in that KD deal, among other ones. But do you think it was enough? KD's 37. He's eligible for an extension, but he's someone that still impacts winning and is still one of the top talents in the league, but age certainly a factor. Injuries also a factor. Do you think the Suns did well enough in this deal?
I think you have to be disappointed, right? I mean, they say that, your price is what somebody's willing to pay. So I guess they got the deal that was out there. But I don't think if you're a Suns fan, you like it at all, because separate it from whatever they gave up, right? Like you mentioned. I mean, yeah, that was a historic haul for a Hall of Fame player, once in a generation trade. But the difference is 2 years older, and I think more than even the injuries and all the stuff you mentioned, his contract. And that's what really dictated this entire saga. Was he did not sign an extension with the Suns last fall that he could have. That set us up for what ended up happening at the trade deadline, where they went around his back, tried to get rid of him. Didn't go so well. He nixed all of that and controlled his fate, and he continued to control his fate all the way through the summer, where he had his 3-team list. Houston was one of those teams. Obviously, that's where he ends up going, but we heard he said no to a potential Timberwolves deal. He was not enthused about the Raptors or, any other number of teams. So that was what was going to control this. But I mean, as far as the package, big picture, it's really incomplete as far as I'm concerned. It's going to be dependent on what they get on Wednesday in the draft, and it's going to be dependent on what they can turn Jalen Green into, who's been a promising talent, but has not really made good on that in terms of being a winning NBA player so far. So if those things go better, then I'll feel great in a couple of years. But right now, pretty disappointing.
Well, with the draft coming up on Wednesday and now Phoenix having this top 10 pick, I'm curious if you have any potential targets. There are some guys in that range that could help Phoenix at positions of need. Is there anyone that you have your eye on? Phoenix drafted Ryan Dunn last year, and when he was on the court, he had impact, especially defensively. Who do you think Phoenix might be targeting with this pick coming up?
Yeah, that's one of the only good things to feel good about if you're the Suns, is that they really hit the draft last year out of the park. They got a second rounder in Oso Ighodaro who can play, and they got a first round pick guy in Ryan Dunn. It looks like he could be a starter potentially for you long term. That's really, really good stuff for a team that didn't even have a pick in the top 20 last year. But as far as this year is concerned, I would say the best case scenario is that the Duke freshman center, Kaman Malawak, drops. He's somebody that obviously we saw play into the national championship game alongside Cooper Flagg. Just a sturdy, steady, high floor. That dude has played in the NBA, some version of him, for as long as there's been an NBA. We know it works. We know the Suns need a center. His hands are great. He's huge. He's athletic. He plays smart basketball like you have to at Duke. I think that'd be great. If that doesn't happen, which, the mocks are telling us it's kind of an 8-guy draft, and he's one of those 8, so it might not happen. I like Colin Murray-Boyles. He's from South Carolina, sophomore. Very raw, doesn't really shoot the 3, which is a question mark when you're only 6'7" in the modern NBA, but he just fills up the box score in every other possible way. One of those guys where you look and say, hey, could he maybe be somewhat in that Draymond Green mold where you could get away with playing him as a small ball center defensively at the very least and make it work offensively? And I like his chances to become that, and they just need more physical, overwhelming guys. So I would like, if Malawak doesn't fall, that's probably where I'd be looking.
I'm also curious to hear your thoughts on the Jalen Green fit in Phoenix right now. Devin Booker and Bradley Beal are still there. It's a very guard-heavy team right now, a lot of wings on that team. The reports are saying that Phoenix is planning to keep Jalen Green on that roster. What's kind of your future outlook over these next couple of months as free agency kicks off after the draft? Do you feel like Phoenix truly does keep Jalen Green, or do they somehow find a way to get Bradley Beal out of town, which they've been telegraphing, hey, we don't want him here. Bradley Beal, though, that's not up to the Suns. It's up to Bradley Beal. So what do you think the iteration of these guys on the roster looks like? Because if Jalen Green stays, he got a lot of wings and not a lot of bigs to show for it right now.
100%. They don't fit. This was already a roster where the acquisition of Beal ended up being a shot in your own foot, and the overlap just never clicked between him and Booker in particular. So to me, it's not tenable if they are going to keep Green. And as far as whether they are going to keep Green, if they weren't, he wouldn't be on the team now. I think they looked at that part of this to make it a 3-team trade before they ever got it done. We were already seeing reports from insiders in this league saying that they were canvassing the NBA to see if they could flip him. And the fact that they did not do that tells me there was not a taker, and that's why they need to improve his value. And if you want to improve his value, he's got to play, and he's got to play well. And so you really have to put resources and effort into maximizing him. I think if he can improve as a three-point shooter, he becomes a lot more impactful right away. This is a guy who takes a ton of threes and doesn't make a lot of them. He's been below league average his entire career at that particular thing. He attacks the rim decently, but he doesn't finish. So it's kind of the same thing. He has a pretty modern shot diet, and he plays basketball offensively along the lines of how you'd like him to play, especially if he can cut the turnovers down. He just hasn't put the ball in the basket. So you can't have a score-first guy who doesn't score, and that's really the thing that they're going to have to figure out. Balancing him off of Booker, having him play in space a little better, play around some vets, not so much of a defensive team like Houston was last year. Those are all things that they're betting can put him in a better position to succeed. And whether that means he stays here and he just really clicks, or he ups his trade value and they can go get that next eventual piece that they want next to Booker long term.
You can stay up to date all year on the Phoenix Suns by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Suns on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app. Your Locked On Sports Today coming up, the Pacers lost Tyrese Halliburton in the most brutal fashion during Game 7. Before we get to that, the Wizards are dropping the bag for Chris Middleton. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet right in the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm part of the action. And if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. While the Wizards are still deep in rebuild mode, they'll be doing it with a seasoned star on board. Chris Middleton has officially picked up his $33.3 million player option for the 2025-2026 season after battling injuries and playing limited minutes last year. The three-time All-Star still flashed signs of efficiency. Washington may not be chasing banners just yet. It's pretty dark in D.C. right now, but Middleton's steady presence and championship pedigree should offer a welcome dose of leadership. Over on the diamond, the Braves took it on the road against the Mets.
The Mets bullpen pitched very well. Juan Soto hit a 2-run home run, yet it still wasn't enough for the New York Mets, who have now lost 9 of their last 10 games. It is just rough times for the New York Mets. When they get the pitching, they don't get the hitting. When they get the hitting, they don't get the pitching. And there are some nights where they don't get all of it. This is a very tough stretch for this baseball team, and one where you don't know how and when they're going to get out of it. They have a lineup that is inconsistent. They have a lineup that has some holes towards the bottom. They have a pitching staff that's dealing with injuries. These are things that we have said over and over and over again so far during the stretch, but nothing seems to change. You thought tonight might have been that night. The big home run from Soto. The crowd is into it at home against the division rival. If they came back to win that game, you felt like that was going to be the moment, even more so than the game that they won on Saturday. Unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be as the rally came up short. It's back to the drawing board, and it's Frankie Montas to make his Mets debut to hopefully get them in the win column.
Yankees squared off against the Reds.
Not a great start for the Yankees in Cincinnati as they dropped Game 1 of the series 6-1 to the Cincinnati Reds. I'm Brian McKeon from Locked On Yankees, and overall, this was a display of Elly De La Cruz and his talent, certainly at the plate and maybe his over-athleticism in the field. Yankees did not hit in this game. Runners in scoring position was a problem. Other than Aaron Judge's giant home run, where it went a lot longer than they seemed to report that it went, the Yankees struggled with runners in scoring position, 0 for 11 throughout this entire game, didn't really hit well throughout the entire game, and that's the storyline. They didn't field, no one really fielded well. The effects of the heat were clear in Cincinnati. Yankees will have the pitching advantage in both games remaining in this series. They'll get Max Fried and they'll get Carlos Rodon in both of these games, but it's going to be important to get out of Cincinnati with a series win. You don't want to lose these kind of series. We'll discuss all of it on this week on Locked On Yankees.
And the Brewers look to get an easy win over the Pirates.
I know some of you guys don't like to hear that when I say, yeah, if the Brewers can just take 2 or 3, but man, sometimes a bad team like the Pirates, they're just going to rise up and beat you once in a while. No big deal. Hey, everybody, Chuck Freeman, Instant Reaction, Locked On Brewers. Yeah, it was a hard-fought game. Brewers tied it up there on the Yelich home run. In the 9th inning, I didn't like the fact that Durbin tried to steal second base, got thrown out with nobody out. Yeah, even if he was safe, I don't know. Bauer's at the plate. Leadoff single by Durbin, and he gets thrown out trying to steal second base. I don't like that at all. All in all, you strike out 15 Pittsburgh Pirates in this game, and you still lose. But again, that's the way baseball is. Brewers hopefully can come back and win the next 2. Couldn't take advantage of the Cubs losing on Monday night in St. Louis as well. We'll talk about all this coming up later on tonight on the next edition of Locked On Brewers. Please subscribe.
Indiana Pacers suffer a gutting end to what was otherwise a magical playoff run. They fall to the Oklahoma City Thunder in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Here to break down the Pacers side of things is Tony East, the host over at Locked On Pacers. And Tony, gutting is the word I use, and it's the word I keep coming back to, considering how magical this Pacers team was throughout the postseason. And honestly, how many people doubted Indiana's ability to get back to where they were last year? Well, they did that and more this season. But let's start with the game. Obviously, Tyrese Halliburton's injury changes things very early in this game. It's a really tough blow to Indiana's best playmaker. How did this game get away from Indiana, and how did OKC close this one out?
Yeah, as devastating as a way as this could happen, basically, as possible for the Pacers. I mean, losing already, very tough. Losing Tyrese Halliburton in the first quarter to the worst possible moment, very tough. And yet, for the fan gripping emotion part of it, they were winning at halftime, right? It was tied at 56 with 20 minutes to go in the game. Like, the cast they had available played pretty well for a lot of the game. And then all of a sudden, the same things that have plagued them the whole series, turnover after turnover after turnover, popped up early in that third quarter. The Thunder got every rebound. And on one hand, it's great that TJ McConnell was on a heater. On the other hand, he was the only player that scored for 13 minutes consecutively in the second half of this game. And he had a bunch of turnovers himself. I mean, just about as heartbreaking as it could go for fans of the team, and that bleeds into the players themselves, right? You never know when this stage and moment's going to be available to you as a player, and to be winning at halftime and to have it happen that way where your star gets hurt and you just come up so close but short still, it was tough for everyone.
And obviously, Halliburton's injury looms large here over next season for the Pacers. And, you know, that diagnosis, whenever it comes out, where do the Pacers go from here? They made it to the finals. They fall short. They still have a talented team with or without Halliburton, but we know that Halliburton is one of the main engines that drives this team. So how do you expect Indiana to approach this offseason with hopes of getting back here next year?
Great question. I mean, everybody saw what this playoffs was. I mean, he obviously had some poor games here and there, but had many more amazing ones, and obviously like unforgettable moment after unforgettable moment. Every single round, including in this arena, I mean, that clutchness is gone, right? They have other players like Andrew Nembhard and Pascal Siakam who have hit big shots for them before, including this season, but it's going to be way different, mostly because he is their identity, right? They play fast, they space out, they shoot the way they do because of him, and they have other players capable of playing that style. That's why they're so deep and so good, but without him, it's just a totally different experience. And so how they build their team and how they decide to operate next year is your guess is as good as mine, right? Their only big free agent is Miles Turner. Keeping him should still be a priority because Tyrese Halliburton will be back at some point. But no, what does his price look like? He did not have a good finals, but he's a very key player for their success. So how do they balance that? And when they do figure that out, are they willing to be expensive? They're going to be expensive. They're also probably not even going to be close to as good without Tyrese Halliburton, depending on how much he's out next year. You know, how much are they willing to spend? How do they balance that? Their probably next competitive season's not going to be until 26, 27, right after a finals. I mean, just as gut-wrenching and fast-changing as it gets when it comes to all that.
And, you know, the injury, the mood in Indiana, it's all somber right now. It's devastating the way that it happened and how Indiana falls just short. But, Tony, I want to hear how you're going to remember this version of the Pacers, what you're going to remember looking back 5, 10, 15 years from now on the 2024-2025 Pacers, specifically this playoff run. I mean, what did this season mean for you, for the Indiana fan base, and everybody who out there is a Pacers believer?
Yeah, this is the farthest they've ever gotten, right? They had never won 3 games in a final series before. So step one, it's their best season ever, right? Many memories made for many people just on the volume of wins, right? Being 1 win away from a championship is how most people will remember this season. And of course, you know, Halliburton bouncing the ball 14 feet in the air in MSG and hitting game winner after game winner. More people will remember the happy moments. I mean, I think for me, what will always stand out is just an incredulous feeling, right? It's not that I didn't believe they were good. Like I saw from Christmas until the end of the year that they had the 3rd or 4th best record in the league and they could beat anybody. It's just how they kept doing it, and the fact that it kept happening over and over. It's just like, how is this possible? Like, how are they this good? They were 9-14. They couldn't beat the Hornets at home. I was there. I watched them suck to start the season. Like I know they got healthy. I know a lot changed and that made them better, but it just never made sense how much they improved mid-season. And it never made sense that they were at 1 win from a championship, and yet they were, because they were actually that good. They were that clutch, and they had this resilience and innate belief in themselves that no other team I've ever seen has. And had they won this championship or found a way to summon something to win this game, that's how they would have been remembered, for resiliency again, bouncing back in the Tyrese Halliburton injury game. So it'll be painful for all these guys for probably the next couple days, honestly, but eventually I think they'll look back at this very fondly and with a group of guys that they'll love forever.
Stay up to date all year on the Indiana Pacers by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Pacers on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, the Orlando Magic are looking to strike while the iron is hot in the East. These should be wide open next year with the Boston Celtics, Indiana Pacers suffering devastating injuries in the postseason. Locked On Magic host Philip Rosman-Reich breaks down the Orlando Magic's path to a title in 2026.
Honestly, if you're ranking starting fives across the East, considering injuries, Cleveland and New York are the only teams that are probably better than Orlando at this point. No one's taking Detroit. No one's taking Milwaukee. No one's taking Miami. We'll see what Boston ends up doing, but no one's taking Boston without Jason Tatum. The Magic are in that stratosphere now. They've got the talent. And now it's just going to be about, do the breaks go your way? Does that opportunity come? Do you get a favorable matchup in the first round? Do you get a surprising matchup in the second round? Does an injury hit at the wrong time for the other team? Do you avoid the serious injury? Like, look, Desmond Bane doesn't play every game. Desmond Bane has an injury history. He plays, he'll miss 15 games. Are the Magic going to be able to survive those games? Are the Magic going to be able to move forward? Opportunity. If the door opens, are you going to go through it? And look, at the end of the day, that's what the Magic saw. Jeff Weltman can tell us all he wants, that this isn't about what the rest of the East is doing and who the rest of the East is. He said this when I asked him about it, just like looking at the landscape of the East. Do you see this as an opportunity? And he said, look, our goal is to win a championship, not just to win the East. But undoubtedly, the timing worked out. The Magic had this one last chance to add salary and make this big splashy move. And look, they still have work to do this offseason to add to their team, to make them better. The Magic still have work to be a championship level team. But undoubtedly, they saw this opportunity. The East is wide open. Orlando, granted, Cleveland won a game by 40 against Orlando this year. Orlando feels like they match up well with Cleveland. Go listen to Locked On Cavs. I read plenty of Cleveland blogs who looked at what the Magic did with Desmond Bane and were a little worried because the Magic match up well with Cleveland. They took them to 7 games. They remember it. They remember how hard that series was for them. The Magic match up well with Indiana. New York's had some strong games against Orlando, but Orlando's had some really impressive games against New York. Even Boston. None of us thought the Magic were going to win that series, but anyone who watched the Magic play the Celtics understood the Magic gave Boston some problems. Boston fans understood that Orlando wasn't the best matchup for them in that first round. Opportunity is there if the Magic continue to improve and continue to add to their roster, because that's where we are. The Magic have this chance, and we'll see what they do with it.
The A's broke ground Monday on what they hope to be isn't just a new ballpark, but a new identity. The $1.75 billion Las Vegas Stadium is officially underway, marking the latest chapter in a bumpy road from Oakland to the Strip. Team owner John Fisher called the A's Vegas' team, which may come as news to the few still wearing green and gold in the Bay. Hopefully in a few years, a few wins and an air-conditioned seat will help fans forget how messy the move was. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we are here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up, we get you set for the 2025 NBA Draft, so at least until tomorrow, stay Locked On Sports Today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on Sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.